If Andrew Cuomo read my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace, he'd probably still be governor of New York. Now available for the first time in paperback. Stop Simping in the Workplace. Men, learn what you need to know in order to protect your job from workplace predators with Stop Simping in the Workplace. Available in paperback at online booksellers everywhere. Last week, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo was forced to resign his position as governor after allegations of sexual harassment were confirmed by the Attorney General's office, and he got no support from his political party. Now, many men can learn a lot of lessons from your former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo in an effort to avoid having sexual harassment claims lobbied against them. Now, in my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace, I try to lay out a plan for men to avoid these type of situations so that they will not wind up having to deal with an allegation of sexual harassment on the job. And in Stop Simping in the Workplace, I lay out a blueprint for men so that they don't wind up in a situation where they wind up losing their ability to make a living at a job. Now, when it comes down to your Andrew Cuomo, there were lessons that men could learn from this situation. And the first lesson a man needs to learn as related to sexual harassment in the workplace is he needs to understand that he needs to set boundaries for himself in the workplace. And that was the mistake that Andrew Cuomo made in the workplace, because he was so caught up in his emotions about being social. He didn't understand that the workplace changed back in the 1990s and the aftermath of the Clarence Thomas judicial confirmation hearings. Now, when your Clarence Thomas was trying to be confirmed for the U.S. Supreme Court, Anita Hill came and made allegations of sexual harassment against him. And after she made those allegations of sexual harassment against him that almost derailed his confirmation to the Supreme Court, many corporate businesses then changed their whole policies as related to dealing with sexual harassment, because it became a national issue. Now, as the sexual harassment became a national issue, one of the things that men did back in the 90s to protect their jobs was they set a hard boundary between themselves and the females on the job. Now, before the Clarence Thomas hearings, many women would go to the workplace and look to date men on the job, and some would even go there looking for a husband. But because of the Clarence Thomas hearings and the impact on sexual harassment, many men started to set a boundary for themselves on the job, where they said that all of these women on the job were off limits. Now, the reason why those men made those women off limits on the job was because those men did not want to lose their ability to make a living, because a sexual harassment claim is a very serious one, and it's one that could possibly derail a man's career and prevent him from being able to move forward in any organization, because a sexual harassment charge can be something that could make a company liable for any sort of behavior this man participates in and lead to punitive damages. And in many cases, it leads to a he said, she said situation when male and female employees are in private. So many men set a hard boundary as related to the women on the job, and they make those women off limits for any sort of social interaction. Now, these men who set that boundary, the only reason they would communicate with that woman is about job-related things, because they know that they have too much to lose to deal with that woman, so they're not going to be talking about anything unless it is job-related. Now, the second thing a man on the job is going to do when it comes down to females after he sets the boundary of making these women off limits is he's going to maintain the concept of professional distance. Now, I talk about professional distance in depth in Stop Simping in the Workplace, and professional distance is where a man only goes outside of his workspace to deal with women only on work-related issues. He does not try to socialize with any of the women on the job, and he understands that any social interaction he has with a woman can be used against him. So he's going to go out here and only interact with women only when it's absolutely necessary. So most men who understand the concept of professional distance, like I do, we'd only talk about work-related things with women at work, and we also know that some women will try to lure you into conversations because females are emotional, and because your females are emotional and your females are social, they need social interactions in order to feel like they're connected to people. But in the workplace, a man cannot feel connected to anyone because many of the women who are out here and want to feel connected, what they're looking for is information to use against you. And they're also looking to create situations to use against you because many of these women are competing against you. And this is something most men understand in the workplace, and that's why they keep their professional distance, because they know that a woman will try to get a man emotionally engaged, talking about things in their personal life, and then use that to go into topics talking about sex and talking about things like men they have slept with or things that they were doing at the club. And then they will go out here and use that as a way to get the man talking about said subjects, and then use that as a reason to run down to the Human Resources Department and make an allegation of sexual harassment. And this is why a man will keep his mouth shut unless he is talking about something business related, because he understands that these female predators, they again are competition, and they're looking to bait you in with certain language. So that's why he's not going to get personal with those females, because if he gets personal with those females, they are going to make it their business to use that gossip to get him fired. Now, in addition to maintaining professional distance on the job, a man is also going to keep his hands to himself. Now, your Andrew Cuomo made the big mistake because he was so emotional and engaging these women physically, and that was something that no man usually does on the job. Now, when it comes down to females, again, because they are very emotional, they like to be touchy, but any man on the job, when it comes down to women on that job, he's going to check those females and let them know they are not to touch him. And the reason why he's going to let those women know not to touch him is because he does not want to wind up in a situation where she's running down to the Human Resources Department and then changing the context of any social interaction you have with them. Because some females, when they get emotional, they will go out here and touch a guy, but when things aren't going their way, they will revise the narrative as related to the social interaction and change it to a context of sexual harassment. And any smart man out here, what he's going to do in a workplace is he's going to not only keep his professional distance as related to work-related topics, but he's also going to keep his physical distance, and he's going to keep his hands to himself. Moreover, when you have a man in the workplace these days, what he's going to do is he's only going to be in public common areas with any female in the workplace, and he's going to try to make sure that there are some cameras going on so that the interactions he's having with that woman are recorded, so that there is a record to show that nothing went on. So smart men, either they're going to have a camera on in their office, a camera in a common area, or some sort of device recording things so that any interactions they're having are on record. And if they're on record, this female cannot go out here and make an allegation of sexual harassment. Now, your Andrew Cuomo, because he was emotional and was so caught up in being so-called personal, he didn't understand that you need to set hard boundaries with females, and you only interact with them in common working areas, and you only interact with them in common working areas where there are cameras on, and you only go out here and interact with them in situations where you have those, not only those cameras on, but you have another female present, so that there is an eyewitness to ensure that you're not going to have to deal with any sort of allegation of sexual harassment or assault. So a smart man, he's not going to be in any place alone with a woman, because again, that turns into a he said, she said situation. And in a he said, she said situation, the business is going to take the side of the female. And the reason why it is going to take the side of the female is because the business does not want to be held liable in a civil lawsuit. So any smart man in any position of power, he is not going to go out here and be alone with any female in any place. He is going to follow the Mike Pence rule when it comes down to females, either having his wife, his mother, or his daughter present. And having those females present puts other females in the workplace on notice. And you want to put those females on notice because they need to understand where the boundaries lie with you. And if you set those boundaries early, they cannot, these predatory females and competitive females cannot run game on you on the job. And this is one of the mistakes many males make out here, not understanding that because the females at your job are competing against you, that many of these females, they will go out here and try to run game on you. And one of the games that they try to run is trying to get personal with you, because when they get personal with you, they get information they can use against you. Because females are primarily social, they use social networks like gossip, and they use that gossip and rumors to develop a narrative as related to you. So that's why you want to go out here and maintain your professional distance. That's why you want to keep your social interactions with women in public common areas. And that's why you want to go out here and ensure that you only interact with them when there are other females present. And you also want to be able to document all of your interactions with that woman and document everything that you're doing with that woman. So that's another thing a man has to do in the workplace, is document every interaction he has with her and everything that he does with her, because when there's a paper trail, a female cannot use the he said, she said narrative. And when there's a paper trail and video recordings and hard evidence, creating a factual platform, this woman cannot come in with an emotional allegation, because you're presenting hard facts as related to what's going on, and those hard facts are the thing that can wind up making her allegations proven false. So this is why it's important for a man, again, to set that hard boundary of keeping those women off limits as related to social interactions, and maintaining professional distance, documenting things through video and writing, and also only talking about work-related topics. This is how you protect your job, and you protect your professional reputation, and how you protect your career, because things have gotten worse from the days of your Justice Clarence Thomas as related to his confirmation hearings. And in this dark era of Me Too, a woman can now go out here and make an allegation and lead to a man winding up losing his job, his career, his professional reputation, and even his freedom. And this is why a man, when he's on a job, maintains that professional distance on the job, because a man is the only one who can provide for himself, and he's the only one who can take care of himself. And he cannot allow himself to put himself in jeopardy because some woman is making some flattering words and trying to stroke his ego, because women will try to bait a guy by trying to tell him what he wants to hear, and then use what he wants to hear to create a platform where she can go out here and grab power at his expense. Because while he's in his feelings about the attention this woman is giving him, she's thinking of a plan on how to take him out. And if she doesn't get what she wants, because she now has leverage, she can then use your social interactions by revising the narrative to make herself into a victim of sexual harassment. And these are the lessons that everybody should, in the manosphere and in men's communities, should learn from your Andrew Cuomo. You have to learn that in today's modern workplace, in this era of Me Too, a man has to go out here and look out for himself first, and he has to put himself first, because many of the females who you are working with are putting themselves first, and because they're putting you last, they are looking to make it where you won't last long at this job. So that's the major lesson that men have to learn from your Andrew Cuomo as related to this sexual harassment scandal, is you have to learn that in this era of Me Too, a man has too much to lose, and he needs to start making it where he loses attention of the women at the job, and he has to avoid dealing with these women unless it is absolutely necessary for the job. And he has to learn how to avoid pitfalls and traps that women try to bait him in, like trying to get him to be with them in private and trying to get them to talk to them in private, because they will go out here and use that information against you. It could be something as innocent as her asking the time. She will take something like the time or good morning and run down to HR, and a man winds up losing at the end of the day. Now, in addition to this, a man also has to keep his personal effects off his desk, because women will also take that and use it as to create a hostile environment. So that's another thing a man has to do in the workplace: keep his desk very clear, because she will take anything that you have personal and try to use it against you, because the definitions of sexual harassment these days are so vague, because they're arbitrarily defined. And what they will do, instead of following the federal standard of saying unwanted and unwarranted advances or a hostile environment, they will take anything that fits whatever emotional context they have and say that it is sexual harassment. So guys have to really look out for themselves in today's modern workplace, and you have to identify female predators very quickly, because you have too much to lose. And if you lose a job, it may be next to impossible for you to restart your career if there's a sexual harassment claim made against you. So I'm hoping guys out here take heed to this video and understand what's at risk, because you don't want to wind up like Andrew Cuomo, going out of the game, all because you are getting in your emotions about females. And that has nothing to do with ethnicity, like Andrew Cuomo claimed about being Italian. It has to do with being smart, and a smart man keeps his professional distance in the workplace so he doesn't wind up losing everything in an absolute disgrace, and then winds up never able to come back from this type of tarnish to your professional reputation. Because once you get a sexual harassment claim made against you, it is almost next to impossible for you to be employed by another company, because they see you as a liability, and they don't really want to have you around women on the job, because they don't want to wind up losing in a lawsuit, in a civil case. So there's a lot that men can learn from Andrew Cuomo, and one of those lessons that a man has to learn is, from day one, the women on the job are completely off limits. Now, if you want to learn how to avoid the pitfalls and traps that Andrew Cuomo fell in, you can pick up my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and it's coming to Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.